In October 2025, the night sky above the Baltic Sea hangs cold and motionless over Emmery Air Base in Estonia, a key strategic outpost positioned on the western edge of a fragile world, and a temporary home for the U.S. Air Force's F-35A Lightning II. These aircraft stand as guardians at the frontier of the free world, a powerful fusion of steel, precision, and technology that reflects NATO's resolve. But within that darkness, danger moves in without a sound. 6 compact drones, modeled on the Iranian-designed Shahed 136, skim low over the Baltic pines, fast and hard to spot. They broadcast no identification signal, offer no warning, and carry only the promise of destruction. 30 seconds remain before they reach their target. 30 seconds before assets worth billions could be reduced to wreckage. Yet the American warfighting system does not flinch. Midnight blankets Emari Air Base in near total silence. 12 F-35A Lightning IIs from the 48th Fighter Squadron at RAF Lakenheath sit still beneath amber security lights. Their stealth coating swallows the glow, turning these advanced fighters into shadowy figures inside reinforced shelters. There is no siren, no panic, no dramatic signal, only the quiet readiness of the 59th Expeditionary Fighter Squadron standing on quick reaction alert. The Baltic wind stirs through the pine trees, joined only by the distant murmur of generators. This is Emari in 2025, NATO's Baltic Sentinel. The silence here is not weakness, it is controlled strength. Far below the surface, inside the Tactical Operations Center, the atmosphere is entirely different. Cool blue LED light washes over glowing screens and the concentrated faces of operations officers. The AN/FPS-117 long-range radar sweeps across 240 nautical miles of sky without pause. Terabytes of data stream each hour through the secure CyberNet system, feeding directly into the cockpits of F-35s waiting on the ground. Even at rest, pilots can absorb the full picture of the battlefield within moments. It is the steady pulse of the defense network, one signal every second, a constant confirmation that control remains intact. And this awareness is not limited to Emari alone. Through the Link 16 network, the data is merged in real time with an E3 Sentry AWACS patrolling above, with a delay of less than 100 milliseconds. Every system is connected, every layer is prepared, then a fracture appears. A minor irregularity flashes across a multifunction display, 6 red dots suddenly materialize. No friendly identification signal. 6 low-visibility drones, each armed with a 20-kilogram warhead, emerging at just 500 feet above ground level. The AN/TPQ-53 counter-battery radar, built to track artillery and rocket fire, picks up the anomaly immediately. Its AI-driven detection model, trained across thousands of scenarios, flags the threat in only half a second. Operations officers lock onto the tracks at once. Speed, 120 knots. Course, direct path toward the center of the base. The assessment is immediate. A swarm attack. Reconnaissance reports indicate that Russian Orlan-10 surveillance aircraft are guiding Shahed-type drones toward the target. The kill chain begins without hesitation. No wasted motion, no delay. Within 2 seconds, targeting data is pushed to ground defense systems. And that raises a fascinating question. How was the AN/TPQ-53 able to detect them so quickly? The answer lies in its gallium nitride arrays, advanced enough to identify radar cross-sections as small as 0.01 square meters, the equivalent of spotting a metal bird diving through the dark. The steady pulse of the radar suddenly quickened, rising into a sharp alarm. In an instant, the base came alive. The first stage of the kill chain was in motion. Along the outer defense perimeter, 4 M1151A1 Humvees from the U.S. Army's 31st Air Defense Artillery Brigade, positioned around Emari, moved into action. Their automated turrets swung 180 degrees in only 3 seconds, smooth, precise, and deliberate. The Stinger missile pods mounted on the Lu-106 launchers opened with a hydraulic hiss. The system was locked in and ready. These vehicles were not operating alone. They were part of a fully integrated defensive network. As elements of the Army's enhanced forward area air defense system, the 4 Humvees identified the incoming drone swarm using targeting data fed directly from the APG-81 radar of an F-35A already on patrol. Through Link 16, information moved across more than 200 miles in real time. The Air Force provided the eyes, and the Army turned that vision into action. Inside the FIM-92E Stinger sits a remarkable piece of engineering. Its 2025 upgrade includes a dual infrared and ultraviolet seeker, allowing it to ignore up to 95% of false targets. In the freezing Baltic air, its cooling system can lower the seeker temperature to minus 196 degrees Celsius in just 2 seconds, giving it the best possible chance of locking onto the right target. The hum of the servo motor built steadily, blending with the faster, tighter rhythm of the target lock tone. Across Link 16, data delay stayed under 100 milliseconds. The Stinger's effective reach stretched to 4.8 kilometers. Then the night sky broke open. Two bright trails of fire launched upward at Mach 2.2. Their glowing thrust vector nozzles allowed the missiles to make astonishing turns in the dark. They climbed in a clean parabolic arc, receiving constant mid-course updates from the E-3 Sentry AWACS overhead. On infrared displays, two Shahed 136 type drones, armed with 20-kilogram warheads and supported by Russian Orlan-10 reconnaissance, appeared just 2 miles from the base. Their inertial guidance and resistance to GPS jamming were no longer enough to save them. A sudden flash lit the darkness. At 10 meters from the target, the Stinger's proximity fuse triggered, releasing a warhead built to maximize impact. Fragments scattered through the air as debris spiraled downward. On the screen, 2 red markers disappeared. Remote confirmation followed immediately, both targets neutralized. One Stinger missile costs about $450,000. Against drones priced near $50,000, but aimed at assets worth billions, that calculation becomes more than justified. Inside the Humvee's protected gunner station, those 30 seconds were filled with non-stop calculations. Baltic sea winds at 15 knots were measured and corrected in real time by the fire control software. It was a clear example of human judgment and machine precision working as one. But the tactical dilemma was far from over. 4 drones were still inbound. Do you send the F-35s into the fight, or do you hold them back and trust the ground defenses to finish the job? The silence returned. This time, it felt far more unsettling. A silence settled in, the kind that signals something worse is coming. The opponent wasn't careless. They had adapted. On the terrain display inside the TOC, the 4 remaining red markers suddenly split apart. Dropping below 300 feet, they slipped beneath radar coverage, weaving through the Baltic pine forest and using the landscape itself as concealment. Their speed climbed to 150 knots. What followed was a different kind of tension. The surviving drones adjusted their behavior, flying low and tight to the terrain while emitting electronic countermeasures to confuse identification systems. This was no longer a simple attack. It was layered, adaptive, and deliberate. A form of hybrid warfare. By 2025, Russian Orlan-10 reconnaissance drones were already relaying targeting data, attempting to interfere with the F-35's distributed aperture system and test NATO's eastern defenses. Reports showed a sharp rise in drone activity over Baltic airspace, increasing pressure on the region. But the response system was evolving just as quickly. Through the cooperative engagement capability, optical data from the F-35 merged seamlessly with ground-based radar inputs. Areas once considered blind spots created by terrain were now transformed into controlled engagement zones. What had been a weakness was now an advantage. Inside the TOC, the only sound was the quiet intensity of focused operators. On the screen, drone profile, Shade 136 type. Radar cross-section, 0.01 square meters. Threat level, high. Hands move quickly across control panels. Artificial intelligence calculated the timeline. 25 seconds to projected impact on the runway and the F-35 hangars. No panic, just precision. The system required full confirmation before engaging all targets. 12 F-35s sat on the ground, and every second mattered. For the drone operators coordinating the strike, the window was closing fast. The integrated defense network left almost no room for error. Then the display shifted. Dark silhouettes appeared, ground-based phalanx systems coming online. A critical decision point, layered defense or concentrated response. A single radar ping echoed through the room. The moment had arrived. Then the steel wall rose. 4 land-based phalanx weapon systems, LPWS, Block 1B variants, deployed by the U.S. Army's 31st Air Defense Artillery Brigade, activated around the runway. Installed following a major 2025 upgrade program, their radar domes spun rapidly, scanning in full 360 degrees. Each system brought its 20mm M61A1 Vulcan cannon out of standby, elevating into position. They formed a protective ring around the 8,000-foot runway. Each unit locked onto targets at distances exceeding 1 kilometer, even through dense Baltic fog and heavy humidity. Their upgraded gallium nitride radar arrays delivered high sensitivity, while new AI-driven clustering algorithms allowed them to track and process entire swarms at once. Compared to older systems, their response speed was on another level. The sound of motors grew louder, shifting from a low hum to a metallic readiness. These systems were not acting alone. They were nodes in a larger network. Data from the AN/TPQ-53 radar flowed into the Joint All-Domain Command and Control System, then directly into Phalanx Fire Control. The F-35's advanced data link provided continuous targeting updates in real time, with almost no delay thanks to edge computing. One signal, 4 systems responding instantly. From inside the TOC, it looked almost like choreography. Human operators guiding, verifying, and overseeing decisions made at machine speed. On the night vision displays, the drones appeared as faint moving shapes, almost like shadows. 30 seconds remained to bring everything to zero. But before the final engagement, one truth stood clear. In modern drone warfare, autonomy isn't chaos. It's calculated control. It's not a limitation. It's an advantage. And here's a question for those who follow cutting-edge tech. By 2030, what takes the lead? LPWS or directed energy laser systems? The target lock tones accelerate, sharper and faster, building tension. Then it begins. Cannon 1, positioned north of the runway, erupts with its unmistakable roar. In a fraction of a second, a 75-round burst tears into the night at a rate of 4,500 rounds per minute, carving a glowing red arc through the sky. At 800 meters, the stream connects. Drone 3 is ripped apart into fragments. The high-explosive rounds detonate mid-air, forming a lethal cloud of shrapnel. First interception confirmed. Its radar had already predicted a high-G evasive maneuver and adjusted in advance. With a muzzle velocity nearing 3,000 feet per second, even a single tungsten round, just over a kilogram, was enough to turn a 20-kilogram threat into debris. The thunder of the Gatling gun rolls across the base, followed by the metallic sound of fragments falling like rain. On the opposite side, Cannon 2 mirrors the engagement. Its stream cuts cleanly across a kilometer-wide gap, intercepting Drone 4 mid-maneuver. The coordination is flawless, overlapping fields of fire without interference, guided by identification and tracking systems that prevent any conflict between friendly units. A deeper look reveals just how relentless these systems are. Each unit carries 1,550 rounds and can reload automatically in seconds, maintaining continuous pressure. The spent casings, still scorching, fall harmlessly within protected zones, while nearby assets remain shielded. The final 2 drones make a last attempt. They climb, fast, reaching 1,000 feet, trying to approach from above. But the system is already ahead. Cannons 3 and 4 elevate simultaneously, forming a crossfire pattern in the sky. A wide aerial barrier with no escape path. In near-perfect synchronization, both open fire. A combined burst of 150 rounds reaches the targets, triggering a chain reaction that neutralizes both threats mid-air. The prediction model had already anticipated this climb with near-perfect accuracy based on earlier reconnaissance patterns. For a brief moment, the sky lights up like a celebration, but this is a signal, not a spectacle. Moments later, burning debris falls harmlessly to the ground. Overhead, an MQ-9 Reaper drone confirms through infrared imaging that there is no damage below. The engagement is complete. The defensive sequence holds. Within 90 seconds, the entire threat has been contained. The roar fades, replaced by the quiet crackle of cooling metal. The systems power down gradually, their barrels lowering as heat signatures begin to drop. Above, the Reaper continues its orbit, scanning the debris field for intelligence. No radio chatter, just confirmation that the airspace is secure. Inside the TOC, the displays return to calm green scan lines. The network confirms all incoming threats have been handled. The F-35 pilots remain on alert, engines warm, ready to launch within minutes if needed. Post-mission, every detail is logged and transmitted to command systems for analysis. Each encounter becomes data, refined, studied, and used to strengthen future responses. From above, the base looks calm again. Defensive systems stand quietly at their positions. Everything appears still, but readiness remains constant. This moment highlights a key reality of modern conflict. The speed of information matters more than the speed of weapons. When systems operate as one, from sky to ground, reaction time becomes the decisive factor. If you're interested, the next step could be a deeper look into how the F-35's distributed aperture system works and why it plays such a critical role in situations like this.